Now we will move on. Yes, thank you. For those out in the foyer, if you'd like to come on in, now is your chance to come on in, grab yourself a seat. We're going to move on to our rebuttal portion of the evening. And this will again have some rebuttals from the questions that we've heard and what you've brought up. Again, a little bit later on, you'll get a chance to ask some questions. So I'll be explaining that in just a little bit. But again, now is the time for rebuttals. And Dr. Ally, you have the first rebuttal.
I'm going to try to reset my stopwatch here. Oops, I'm not doing it the right way, so I'm going to have to look up there. No. Okay, I'm set. Okay, well, I don't see my timer up there, but that's okay. Michelle is here to pull me off stage in case I go over time. So let me say, folks, that in the rebuttal, I don't want to sound negative or to be overly critical. I just want clarification of the important points that Doug and I have been discussing. You remember my point about the need for clarity. We cannot just say that Jesus was a great man and greater than a prophet, and therefore he is the Son of God, especially now, as it turns out, that in the background of this, that if we admit that he's the Son of God, then Doug wants to make that he is one of the persons in the Holy Trinity. So not only Son of God, but God as well. I want to say that this actually is part of what I spoke about about the development. Now, Doug said that Jesus is not Son of God biologically, but analogically. And that means that we're taking the term Son from what we know from human experience, and we're applying it to Jesus. And we're saying the relationship that applies between Father and Son, as we know it, that must somehow apply between God and Jesus. But then, if you wanted to say that they're part of the Holy Trinity, which means that they have to be co-equal and co-eternal, why would you call one Father and one Son, implying a hierarchy of being, an order, and different levels of authority? Why wouldn't you call him, for example, twin brother? Now, the reason it happened like this in Christianity is that things developed, some things stayed, and then they branched off. There are parallel lines of development. So at one stage, people referred to Jesus as the Son of God in a metaphorical sense. That means God is with this man. At another stage, they took him to be Son of God by adoption. God has adopted this person. Later on, some people thought that because he was born of a virgin, that means he must be somehow ontologically the Son of God, at least for his human person. And then later on, they thought, well, he must have been Son of God from all eternity. And so it goes from one stage to another. By the time they get to that he was Son of God from all eternity, now they're making him God of true God, as is declared in the Council of Nicaea. I know this church is not so much particular about church councils, but nevertheless, I'm showing where that development went. So now they declare Jesus to be true God of true God. But guess what? The previous stories that prove Jesus to be metaphorically Son of God, adopted Son of God, biologically Son of God, and now eventually. So all of these stories are still there in the minds of Christians and in their writings. And the title Son of God still applies to him. They cannot forget that title. That's why they're still referring to him as Son of God and also God at the same time. But we all know that my son is not me, even though some people might mistake him for me because we resemble each other so much. But when we come to examine the matter carefully, we know that my son is not me. So if we wanted to refer to Jesus as co-equal and co-eternal with God, that should have been the declaration from the start. We don't need to go through the intermediary stages to say that he was the Son of God. And we don't need to call him Son of God, which implies a sort of hierarchy. So in short, I believe that I have shown that there has been this development, and when Doug spoke, he actually confirmed some aspects of this development, because notice what happens. In order to look at Mark's gospel, it only takes the few points which might indicate that Jesus is greater than a human being, omitting the parts in Mark's gospel which shows that he had very human limitations, which would mean automatically that he is not God, especially limitations in knowledge, which means that he's not omniscient, and therefore he's not the all-knowing God. Then we go to the later Gospels. Doug naturally would find proofs for Jesus' high position more likely in the gospel according to John than in the previous gospels. And he even admitted that, yeah, the gospel according to John is doing it more often, but he wants to say that the gospel according to Mark has done it already, has placed Jesus on the level of divinity. But his proofs, one after another, were examined during the Q&A, and we found that his proofs do not hold up. For example, Mark chapter 1, verse 1, it says the Son of God, but that phrase has been dropped from some modern translations because it is found to be lacking in some ancient and reliable manuscripts of the Bible. And no cardinal Christian doctrine can rest on a disputed text. This is something accepted by Christians themselves. Because if it could be this way and could be that way, and you build your foundation here and this collapses, well then, perhaps the other thing is right. So you have to have an undisputed text, and this is what is lacking in the gospel according to Mark to promote Jesus to the level of absolute divinity. So in short, is Jesus a prophet or is he the Son of God? We have shown that in order to say that he's Son of God, we have to have proof. We don't have that proof. Therefore, we go back to him being a prophet of God. Muslims and Christians can agree on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.